Welcome to the football show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff and Lee McCulloch are here with me, and thank you to you for showing your support over the entire season. It's been absolutely magnificent. I want to thank everyone who's downloaded the PLZ app and, of course, hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel as well. We really appreciate your support. It's been absolutely fantastic. And here's what we have on today's show.
Brendan Rodgers claims he feels satisfied that Celtic have secured the title after he was accused of losing hunger in his second stint at the club. Philippe Clement admits Rangers will have huge changes to make in the summer, with the current squad coming to the end of the line at Ibrox.
I think we're, as a club, in some ways at the end of a cycle, so we need to change some things.
David Gray insists he's well equipped for the role of Hibs boss after taking over again as interim boss after the sacking of Nick Montgomery.
But in terms of backing my ability to be able to do the job, 100% believe I can do it. I think I've demonstrated that now on a few occasions.
Craig Levein believes St Johnstone would be well prepared for a play-off against Raith Rovers or Partick Thistle if they fail to finish in 10th place.
As it might be that we're in playoffs, and I'd rather go into the playoffs in a position where we're actually in a vein of form.
Well, I have to say we've got lots to talk about, and having watched St Johnstone, I'm with you, Ruffy. Having watched St Johnstone, every time I go and see St Johnstone,
You've been on them for about a month.
Oh my God,
maybe longer.
My God, they're terrible. Honestly, it would get football stopped. It really would.
I don't understand what vein of form he's in.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, if the St Johnstone team had come back out to wave to the fans with Dick Turpin masks on, I would not have been surprised. I mean, they were awful. And that was at home with a huge fan base that had turned out to hopefully see St Johnstone suddenly really bring it to life. It's still down to the wire, but we'll talk about that a little later on. Of course, the title has been won by Celtic. And as you can see with the table here, having a look at the top and the bottom still all to play for. But at the top, Celtic now unable to be caught by Rangers after that emphatic win, Ruffy, over Kilmarnock.
Yeah, it was really impressive. I think that's the kind of style of play that the fans have been hoping for all year. It hasn't really happened over the 90 minutes. It's been a lot of 45 minutes out of the first half, second half. But they got it correct. Obviously, the pressure was still there. They still had to win the game. But anybody that took the part in a Celtic jersey turned it on big time. Yeah,
I can remember actually down at Rugby Park again, Rangers had to win down there. I think Kyle Lafferty was playing, and before I'd come out the tunnel, I was working for Sky Sports at the time, Kyle Lafferty had already scored. Did you play in that game?
Aye.
Yeah.
We were 2 or 3 up in maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest relief ever. We clicked that day. And it's a wee bit like Celtic. They've not a great season when you're looking at it on the eye, but when it's mattered, they've turned it on. The Old Firm games to go and win the league at a difficult place where they've struggled basically all season at Rugby Park on a difficult pitch. They were magnificent, and it could have been more.
Yeah, I mean, the overall point here which Brendan Rodgers was making, and I have absolutely no problem, Ruffy, with Brendan Rodgers having a dig at people. He's won the league. Mm-hmm. A manager is perfectly entitled to do that. Sometimes, the people who've criticised him, they don't get the full context of it. They get basically a headline or a line fed to them by their PR people, or he's seen a clip that's come out from broadcasters or radio or been told second hand on things. But I don't begrudge him his chance to have a boot back, a punch back at people. This is what he had to say with regards to winning the league, of course, and of course the criticism that's come his way. What experience has given me is not to become too emotional with words, and there's been lots of that tracing back to August. I had to show a mental strength in satisfying in the work we've been able to do. I hadn't lost hunger and wasn't going through the motions. He's clearly been stung by a fair bit of criticism. Some of the criticism at the start, though, was warranted and merited as well, because quite simple, some of the criticism at the start warranted, merited, and when you made it, you were banned. We get banned for criticising him. Some other people were banned for criticising him. So clearly there's a tetchy team in the background that don't really like anybody telling the truth about him. That's me had my say on him.
Well, tell us what you really feel. Tell us how you really feel.
I mean, that is the nature of it. You know, there's a whole team in the background who don't like criticism or don't like certain elements of the truth to be told on it. He came back. I can remember writing the column on him. He is a top coach. You know, a lot of Celtic fans were unconvinced. A lot of Celtic fans were unhappy at him coming back because of the manner in which he left the club. So, you know, that's the nature of it. You know, if you can't take the criticism, then tough. But he did come back. He is a top coach. And the overall aspect of his return has been fairly uninspiring, Ruffy. You're talking about maybe 6 games in the season where some Celtic fans have been talking, saying, really good for 45 minutes here, 45 minutes there, really good against Hearts, decisive against Rangers, emphatically winning against Kilmarnock. The rest of the season, flat.
Yeah, well, everybody's got an opinion, and you're offering an opinion, and most of the opinions are, I would agree with 99% of what you're saying there. It's some way through the season there was a few doubting people. You know, they weren't playing the football that the supporters are used to seeing, whether that's players leaving or players injured or whatever. You know, but it's up to him to get the best available players on the park. And for a wee while, it looked as if Rangers were going to steal it. You know, obviously they lost Cameron Vickers and they lost, you know, Collum in the middle, and they were struggling a wee bit. You're right, I've already said that. 45 minutes wasn't enough for some supporters. They're used to a style of football that they turn up and they get 90 minutes of really good football. And I think if you're honest enough, that didn't happen a lot of the times this year. But as Lee said, when the crunch came, they stepped up and proved that they are a good side.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, we can be equally brutal of the other end of the city, Lee, because quite simply, what a chance Rangers had to win the league. They were at one point with an opportunity to have destiny in their own hands, and they blew it.
Yep. I think it's probably been the nature of the season. Brendan Rodgers, you say they're absolute pelters he's got for most of the season, but he's delivered the league. He could come away from this season with a double. Albeit the other side, Rangers done ever so well to get back in the mix, to actually go ahead in points, and then they've just fell short. Now that's unacceptable for a lot of people in the stands. They can still come away this season with a double. So I think in 1 week's time, when that cup final, once the winners of that are decided, then I think the finger pointing can really start. But as it stands now, Brendan Rodgers has delivered the most important one this season, and that's the league. And it just sets us up for a really, really exciting game for both. I think both managers will make massive changes to both squads.
Yeah, massive changes to the starting lineups for that, or massive changes next season.
Oh, sorry, next season. I think that they're probably the hands forced a little bit of who they could pick for the cup final. But what I'm suggesting for next season, I think there'll be wholesale changes in both squads.
Yeah, the point that Lee's making there, Ruffy, is there needs to be wholesale changes. Obviously, we'll hear from Philippe Clement in a minute, but there needs to be wholesale changes. But there's an interesting twist in this, because Celtic fans have heard it all before. They're going to buy big, so they're not going to be fooled. I think quite a few of them are at breaking point with that. They are looking and saying, let's see if Brendan Rodgers finally gets the players that he was denied this season. Because there's absolutely no doubt that a lot of people are not fooled by the fact that that board in the background did not give him the players he wanted in the summer or in the January transfer window. So there's the first dilemma. The second one, I think, is a major one, which is quite simply, have Rangers got the money to suddenly let Philippe Clement build his own side? Because let's be fair about it, the majority of those players are not his.
No, and I'm looking through the Rangers team to see which players could be sold on to bring in large sums of money. You know, you just have to look over at Celtic. If O'Reilly was to go, what would you say? 20 million?
15
easily. You know, I can't see anybody in the Rangers camp.
I spoke to Charlie Adam, 250,000.
I think Rangers have. I mean, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes financially with Rangers, but it looks as if they're identifying players. They're not spending an awful lot of money. They aren't on some players, but they're putting players on good wages, which is fair enough. I think they need to change that structure and trying to find money to buy players for maybe 2 years, 3 years, instead of it's just one in, one out, and who's people leaving and that. I think they need a wee bit more consistency.
Well, who's the resale at Rangers? You've got the Butland.
Yeah, I know.
Yilmaz maybe.
Yeah.
Sterling, potentially, that money. But you're not, you're not talking... Of course, that's my point, yeah.
Yeah, Butland's the one that could get a good fee. I mean, Ruffy's already an internet sensation on all the Rangers websites for suggesting Butland's going to Celtic, you know, or they should buy him, to be more precise, but...
Imagine Celtic getting into Rangers to say, can we buy your goalkeeper? How much money do you want from him?
Yes.
How much would you price him at? How much would you... Say if it's an English club.
I don't know. He is a good 15, 20 million. I think he's a great goalkeeper. I'll tell you how good he is. Nobody's talked about Alan McGregor since Alan McGregor retired.
I know, and that's a big one. Ali McCoy took the job. Side note, Ali McCoy took the job off Walter Smith, and he said it's like taking the mic off Sinatra. Yes. It was a wee bit like that with Atu. It was big shoes to fill, and I think he's more than done it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's find out what Philippe Clement has to say. Alison McConnell was out there today.
Rangers manager Philippe Clement has revealed that conversations are already well underway with himself and the board on the same page when it comes to the changes that he believes are required to make Rangers into a successful club competing for silverware and honours next term. However, he believes that the failure to land the title this term has been underpinned by a lack of physical conditioning.
The foundations of the house, of this physically of the dressing room, are not good enough to play at high intensity 3 games a week. That's one of the reasons of so many injuries. That's clear. That's an easy conclusion. So these players and players coming in, they need a really good preparation. Also new players coming in to get automatized with all the way of playing, to learn the principles.
There's 2 games left for Rangers now. They face Hearts at Tynecastle tomorrow afternoon before, of course, facing up to Celtic in the Scottish Cup final at Hampden the following weekend. And while Clement sees this natural cycle now coming to an end at Rangers, he wants them to go out with a bang.
I think we're, as a club, at in some ways at the end of a cycle. So we need to change some things. And I want them to end this cycle with a really big moment next week on Saturday.
It's absolutely massive. I think this game is huge for Rangers on so many fronts. You know, the first part of it all is, Lee, that Celtic have absolutely been in control of the league games. I think it's 10 out of 12 points. So there's the first thing that they have to try and redress, you know, going into that cup final. And they need to work out how to break this style of Celtic and win it by hook or by crook.
Of course, that's the difficulty. I think with Celtic hitting form at the right time, it's going to be a really difficult game. And I agree, I think there's slightly more pressure on Rangers going into this game because the league title for both clubs is #1 priority. So this is, obviously it's a side note, but both want it bad, fans want it bad. It'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. I think obviously Celtic will be favourites, won't they?
Yeah, but you've been a player and a coach. When you look at the way Celtic play, and it's a tough question, Philippe Clement will obviously have to work out a strategy. You look at the way Celtic play and you look at the players you have at your disposal at Rangers, what would you do? What do you think that message has to be? I'm not looking for chapter, line, verse, the whole thing, but what do you think are the key elements to play? You know, if you keep making the same mistake, you know, it borders on stupidity.
I think with the manager, Clement, I think he's finding it difficult to change personnel because there's that many injuries in it as well. I think at times he's mixed his style of play up, where they went to St Johnstone away, they went to Dundee away in early on the season, and they went direct, so they weren't overplaying football. Like Celtic haven't really changed the way they've set out to play, their style, their ethos. They've not really changed. They've always tried to pass through the third, full-backs coming in, centre midfield players getting forward in the box, entertaining football. That's what they're trying to do. But you can't do that every week for me. And the thing about the Rangers manager, he's tried to change his style depending on the opposition from Europe to Dundee, St Johnstone away, like I said. But he's running out of different players to play that style. So players will only play to their strengths. And that's when I think, with the amount of injuries, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. To answer your question, I would just always get back to basics. Always get back to basics. Always do the simple thing. Run faster and further than your opponent. Outwork them in basics and possession.
Yeah. Would you, and I know your old compatriot Barry and a few other former players have looked at it and said, look, you've got to look at the key components that keep winning the game for them. Would you just say to a player at Hampden Park, listen, I don't really want you to grab the headlines for scoring the winner. I just want you to follow Callum McGregor about and stop him playing in a man-marking role and then let the other 9 outfield players follow my instructions on...
How many Old Firm games we had? And after it, we always say Callum McGregor's probably the best player in the park. Nobody could get near him.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's difficult. If you look at Rangers' back line, they always want to drop because of Kyogo's pace. So when they drop, the midfield drop, it's hard to get round Callum McGregor.
Yeah.
Now, if the Rangers centre-halves are really quick, then you can squeeze the game up to get closer to him.
Yeah.
But they've not got that now because of the injuries as well. So Callum McGregor's a massive one, but do you bring your striker back and put him on Callum McGregor? So Celtic are back four are dominating the ball. That's the presence of having such a great player, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and the other aspect of which I'm going to be I'm in a brutal mood today, Ruffy, you know.
Can you tell?
Can't you tell? Carry on.
We're
banned anyway.
Well,
what they got to do, ban us twice?
It's a very good point. It's a double ban.
Imagine getting the folk, that's used banned twice.
Exactly. No, the point I was going to make is quite simply, Rangers players are not good enough. They're not good enough. There's not a player in that side that I'm looking at in any game against Celtic, and I always judge by this. When you look at the players in the tunnel and you think, who is really somebody you would fear? The only player that Celtic fear is James Tavernier in a free kick 25 yards out. The rest of them are not good enough.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Celtic have got the march on Rangers. I think they know the certain weaknesses that Rangers have and they exploit them. I think, although Tavernier's a wonderful player, Celtic get the ball wide, and they did it against Kilmarnock as well. They just get it wide and they fly it into the box and they've got people, midfielders coming in. Rangers don't play that way. They play a certain way that it's not got the tempo that Celtic have got. And it's okay saying, yeah, go and mark Callum McGregor, and that leaves O'Reilly and Hatai, who are just as good. They're just as effective as McGregor.
Yeah.
So it's difficult identifying one person. I just think that Celtic identify the areas in Rangers' team that they can get at.
Yeah. Rangers have got this final game of the season against Hearts. You know, midweek it was a 2-2 draw for Hearts, but the general feeling on it was players were roaming about thinking, I don't want to get an injury because I might be going to the Euros. And that's what you do, don't you?
Yep, that's natural, absolutely natural. When we're getting closer to the Euros, which is going to be the biggest moment in most of the players' careers, they don't want to get injured, they don't want to get hurt, they don't want to go for tackles. I'm not suggesting that there's actual players doing that, but naturally you're going to try and look after yourself. I think that Hearts' last game of the season, coming up at home, they want to go out with a bang, they want to make a statement. Their squad will improve next season. They want to bridge the gap for them and the Old Firm. They've got 3 players coming in just now. Pivotal that they keep a hold of Lorne Shankland though, and I don't know if they will or they won't.
Yeah, my gut feeling is he's gone. So there you are. There's an opinion, Ruffy. Andy Halliday, Peter Haring, Michael McGovern, they're going to leave at the end of the season. I think there might be a few more heading out the door as well, because I think, you know, he's recruited well on the pre-contract basis. We know the three he's already got coming in, and it'll be interesting to see. This is a club that's finished third. It'll be interesting to see what their attitude is to maybe pushing the boat out to think Europa League. Speculate to accumulate. Stevie Naismith might sit in that boardroom and say, listen, see if you give me a wee bit extra here, we get a wee bit more quality, we might get group stage, and what a kitty that would be for them.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem he's going to go is, if you're saying Shankland's away, it's replacing Shankland.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to be, if you're talking about going out and getting quality, if quality comes, it's going to cost them money.
It's not impossible though, Ruffy.
No, but it depends what kind of quality you're talking about and how much you're thinking of spending. We're talking about Celtic, sort of a hedging on spending 5, 6, 7 million on somebody, so you're talking about Hearts maybe delving in the 2 million, the bracket, and I'm saying
30 goals a season though.
I know. Did you see his goal the other night there?
It's so instinctive.
See if he meant that.
Yeah.
That is quality.
He did. I think he did mean that.
That is real up there with the best.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of taking that chance. But I just think at this moment in time, Hearts will be more than happy getting into the Europa again, more than happy getting in a group stage, and more than happy at keeping the fans on board. I mean, there's 16,000 at every second game, home game.
Yeah.
They've got the fans there. They're appeasing the fans. They're not at the stage now where the fans are crying to go a step further.
Yeah.
They're not like screaming, "Oh, you better get us into."
I think the demands for the stands there is a cup. That's the biggest thing. They want a cup.
Is there any players in Scotland? I mean, obviously everybody's looking at Miovski, and I think he might be off as well. But where he goes could be, could be in Europe.
Yeah.
But is there any player that you think has got an eye for goal in Scotland? You know, because they're undoubtedly going to be scouting players in Europe, thinking if we're going to lose a 30-goal a season player, then we need to try and unearth some young buck who's going to come in there and add that maybe somebody is not going to take a chance on anywhere else.
I can't think of anybody that's
a tough call, isn't it?
in the lower leagues. It's so difficult. The last time somebody scored 30 goals out with Old Firm.
Yeah, it's a big call, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money to get that, and that's how the importance of Hearts need to just say how much wages you want in loans.
Yeah. But to be fair, they've made
simple.
he would become one of the biggest players. They've made him a right good offer.
Yes,
You know?
but it's obviously not enough for he signed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I think he's off.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rangers, Hearts, Tynecastle, bouncing, sunny day. Undoubtedly somebody's going to come out and wear the Hearty Harry costume and then pull the heat off and wave to everybody. Do you remember that day? McKay.
I do. I remember it well. I think the game is Rangers are playing for places in the cup final.
Yeah.
If you look at Rangers' last game against Dundee, it didn't look like they were playing for places in the cup final. So they need to. Something needs to happen. Rangers need to go out and convincingly win this for me.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. This is such a huge week because, as Lee mentioned there, you know, they need a positive result from this game against Hearts. I think they need to win the cup or there's going to be mayhem. I think there will be very, very angry Rangers fans looking and saying, okay, you know, managers come in, he deserves to build his team, and they'll just switch their attention, laser focus to the board and saying, what are you giving him?
Well, he's already come out and pre-warning them that next year there's going to be a better team. You know, he's anticipating if something was like that was to happen. He's sort of put it out there. If you're a Rangers supporter, I'm changing this whole team next year. So he's not really saying like, don't worry about it if we lose the game. But if we win the game, I always think it's the last game of the season. You're sending your fans away happy as Larry. They're not going to be talking about the league. Rangers will have 2 cups in the cabinet, and that for a while will keep the fans happy.
I'm always amazed, Ruffy. So I've got Rangers to win 2-1.
I think with the game next week, Rangers have got to go into the cup final on a winning run.
What's that prediction?
2-1.
2-1.
Okay. Celtic are at home to St Mirren. And of course it could be a double whammy for Celtic. We'll talk about that with the women's game a little later on in the programme. But Celtic against St Mirren. Interestingly enough, Ruffy, and I don't know if you know anybody, do you know any? I know a couple of people who do it. you know, that they would go to the ground at 11:30 at night, 12 o'clock at night, and sit out and wait for the bus to come back. And obviously then the players all wave to them. Brendan Rodgers makes a stirring speech, and then and then you go home at 12 o'clock at night just to welcome the team back from Kilmarnock in midweek. I mean, that is, I mean, look at the picture, that's absolutely mental, isn't it? I mean, absolutely crazy. But the devotion after you've won the league, and Celtic against St Mirren at the weekend, is just going to be a party.
Yeah, it'll be a wonderful atmosphere if you're a supporter there. It's something if you've been there every second week supporting the team, and to get the league win, you know, it's just get up in the morning with your mates, wherever you go to a game, and just enjoying the whole day. Pressure's off, you know, and you expect, if it's a nice sunny day, you expect a win and the celebrations that go with it.
Yeah, okay, here's another one of those lines that I think might prompt both of you to give me an interesting answer on. But as you look at a season, excuse me, as you assess a season in which Celtic win the league, and you look at the money and the riches that are available to Celtic, you know, we're talking about 12 out of the last 13 they've won the league. And I think next season, with the money that's available, unless Rangers have a huge shift or an injection of cash which is comparable, I think Celtic next season are going to be even stronger and even more difficult to dislodge as the number one team for the next, you know, 3, 4, 5 years, because the money they've got coming in, Lee, is colossal. There's the title win, there's the season tickets, there's the merchandise, there's the 60 million from the Champions League, there's an add-on from Frimpong. They might actually sell Matt O'Reilly. The money, for me, with 72 million already in the bank, you're talking about a club that could potentially have somewhere between 150 to 200 million pounds at their disposal. That is colossal.
Astronomical. It's crazy money. And the obvious financial gulf is there. Now, at the start of this season, we were talking Brendan Rodgers was coming back. Surely he's going to get back to the board. I think we're on agreement. He didn't really get back to the board at all. Now, this season coming, cup final regardless, with that money coming in, I would be staggered if he's not saying, let's try and make a dent in the Champions League. I think, is it last 3 years, they've been disappointing, to say the least, in the Champions League. Really disappointing, actually.
The last 3 years, since 2003.
Well, there you go, the last wee while then. They've been really disappointing in the Champions League. He's got to want to make a dent in that. And if he does, that means the board have got to back him with 3, 4, 5 first team ready big signings.
See, I mean, go back, you're telling me the year better than that. So, way back when Lenny was there, who was the board and why were they splashing £6 million in Lenny, £6 million in City? I don't know what they paid for John Hartson. They were splashing £6 million.
Yes, but
and they had international players playing, Valharden, Mialbi, the midfield players are all playing international football, all playing with present international teams.
Yeah, but that was a strategy. That was a strategy because Dermot Desmond became the majority shareholder, not the owner, the majority shareholder, and with his direction and commitment, Celtic decided to change the axis, because you can remember
players that Rangers had.
The Rangers, people were talking about, Dick Advocat said it would take Celtic 5 years to close the gap. Within, you know, the flick of a switch, a 6-2 win in the home game against Rangers, those players that they brought in was a change of attitude and strategy. And at that point, they were going big. But what I would say to you, and I repeat this week in, week out, there is not a Celtic fan that I know, Ruffy, that is telling Dermot Desmond or the board, go and spend 10, 20 million on a player. They're not saying that. Yeah. What they're saying is, stop spending 10 and 12 players once for the future who end up coming up and not contributing. Spend 4 or 5 quality players, take a little push on some
Brendan's
players.
saying that as well.
The manager said it twice. He said it in the summer and he said it in the January transfer window. And every time they've been cute and clever in the PR team, quickly trying to diffuse the bombs. He needs to be given 4 or 5 quality players that he wants. Not one Celtic fan do I know that is suggesting that Celtic are going to go to the quarters or the semi-finals of the Champions League. They're not. All they want is, you've got 8 games. Is there any chance after the Champions League theme plays that we don't have to suffer being pumped? That's what they're saying, because that's what's happening.
Yeah, but I think now they've been tested for the last 2 years. I think the majority of them don't want to be that bottom team.
Yeah.
No, they don't. I think that that side of it has been stretched to the limit. That's why I don't think the board will get away with it this year. I think Brendan Rodgers will have obviously something to say if he doesn't. You know, so it'll be interesting to sit here and watch. I would like to think somebody with director of football or somebody would be at the Euros, because there's got to be players at the Euros at clubs who you can afford, you know, that might just excel in a not a big team, but other teams, you know. So I think that they're the kind of players they've got to start bringing in.
And I think, I also think Rangers should adopt this policy. Lee, is quite simply, there is nothing better than a wee bit of experience. Someone who's been over the course before, who maybe comes to the end of their career, and you can get 1 or 2 years out of them where they suddenly let you realise the level of player they've been and how you can try and emulate them. You know,
they can be difficult to get as well, though.
Absolutely, they can, but you've got to try
it's
and
a little
get
bit.
one.
Cantona get into Man United.
Yeah.
He changed all the young boys' perspective of how to be a football player. What do you do away from the pitch? And they're doing extra training because he was leading by example. For me, I would like to see at Rangers more youth coming through. It's got to be more youth coming through. And then, as you're saying, experienced guys that set the tone that these young ones can look up to.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I'll tell you another thing, by the way, Ruffy. I've got no time for anybody badge kissers and waving to the fans and, you know, showing people their jersey. I'm sorry, that's just not good enough. You know, go out in the park, do your business, do it regularly every week, and the fans will respond to you. But any of this nonsense and, you know, kissing the badge, you know what we've been like with badge kissers? We just bump them right out the door and they're not on the show again. You know. Anyway, by the way, we talked about Hearts and how they've recruited well. I think St Mirren have got a diamond. Obviously, the Celtic fans will be thinking about a party, but St Mirren have signed Sean Rooney on a 2-year deal from Fleetwood. I think he's going to be a great signing.
Yeah, if you cast your mind back to the St Johnstone when they were winning trophies, he was a big player for them. I think he scored in a couple of the finals. Yeah, he's been down in Fleetwood for a wee while now, but obviously they've kept tabs on him. And certainly he's proved that in our league that he'll be a good player. So no, I think that's a very good signing.
Right, Celtic St Mirren.
It's got to be Celtic 3-0.
Yeah, I think it's 3-0.
3-0 for me.
Yep, okay, right across the board. 2 games that I think have real meaning in the league that we've got to talk about. Ross County against Aberdeen. How Ross County even find themselves in this position has left me bemused, because Don Cowie's got them playing some lovely football. I thought they played some great football. Obviously, it helps, Lee, if you've got a number 10 who's got a great touch, can pass it. Yandanda was a
standout. He's been exceptional. He's been really good, but it's unfortunate for them that they're going to lose him to Hearts. I think Ross County, you'd obviously be prefer to sit in their position now, although they're playing an Aberdeen team that are full of form now, that have changed, that flipped it round. Again, Peter Levein working wonders there. I think I can see Aberdeen winning, but I can see Ross County being okay.
Yeah, because the two of them are going to...
And you're so strong in St Johnstone. I've not watched them as much as you. You just don't like St Johnstone.
Oh, it's not that I don't like them.
Don't like the style. Don't like
them. I'm being honest. A lot.
I know you.
I like their manager. I like him in press conferences, but unfortunately, it's just not worked. and I'll get to them in a minute. But listen, Don Cowie, he came into the press conference. He was unbelievably positive after the game, and knows it's going to be hard to get that result, albeit they're at home against Aberdeen.
Be a difficult game. I think they've won every game of this since the split, so they're in really good form. But as I've said, part of the Motherwell game on Saturday, we've been excellent at home and we feel really good about ourselves, so we go into it feeling confident.
Yeah, I thought they played some lovely stuff, Ruffy.
I just think they've got Murray, who is playing well. He's causing problems, obviously Big Boy White as well. I think they've got something to offer. I agree with Lee, the Aberdeen boys seem to try and impress the new manager. They've just appeared from nowhere and they're playing particularly well. I think if Ross County get a draw,
they can still end up doing...
The goal difference isn't goal difference.
Goal difference, yeah.
Right,
is the goal difference no worse?
Well, here is the goal difference. Right now you've got Ross County on -29, St Johnstone on -26. So quite simply, they need to get a win. They need to win.
Yeah, they need to win to make themselves safe. I wouldn't be surprised because all eyes will be on Motherwell. I can't imagine St Johnstone not turning it on all year and all of a sudden going down to Motherwell. So I think the Ross County boys will be going out with sort of iPods and that, and just keeping that game in their ear. Yeah. See how it's going.
Yeah.
Even a radio behind.
Radio.
For the benefit of people of a certain generation who watch the show, because we've got quite a large gamut right across the board of different age groups, and I have to say, iPods are a new one that you put in your ear. AirPods. People are up there going, I'm going to order these. What are these new gadgets that Ruffy's got? But over and above that, there is a day for listening in the tranny and you think, oh, what's going to happen? The one thing about it is Aberdeen have got a job to do. Full march to Aberdeen. I mean, there's a wee suggestion that Connor Barron could be getting a Scotland call-up. I can't see it.
That's the strongest part of our team, Scotland team.
Yeah.
McTominay, how's his injury? He's back, isn't he?
I think he'll be
He's
fine.
back. McGinn, who's he playing steady?
I don't see the value in that. I see the value in maybe a James Forrest because he might be able to fit in at right back.
He's got experience of it as well.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Duke. Is it Duke? Doak.
Has he played?
Sorry?
Doak. Has he played?
No, but we were saying...
Ben Doak. Ben Doak. No, but at the end of the day...
In the friendlies he might play.
He might play in the friendlies, which could be
Connor Barnes a good player, but I don't see... I'd prefer the little boy for Kilmarnock, Watson.
David Watson, yeah, we mentioned him last week, Lee. Anyway, apart from that, Aberdeen have got a job to do. They'll want to finish in a high. And Peter Levein, as Lee has mentioned, has done a great job. And he also reckons that Jimmy Tillene will, or Himi Tillene, whatever way you want to pronounce it, we'll find out when we meet him. He's basically, Peter Levein, recommending that Junior Hoylett, who's that type of experienced player we're talking about, he reckons that he should be there at Pittodrie next season.
I've said to the club numerous times that I'd love to keep Junior here. As you can see, his quality, even today and last week, it was different class, and also the semi-final. I could name off loads, but he's just one of them players that he just creates for you, and obviously the set play as well was fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. Ruffy, you can't have a wee chat while it comes out of the advert.
We can't help ourselves, Ruffy.
You're only allowed to chat coming out of an interview by telling us somebody's signing for someone, right? That's what Tam does. Tam usually gives a wee snippet and then boom,
what I was going to say, Lee's probably a better person to answer that. If this new boy's coming, he's bringing his two coaches.
Yeah.
Where does that leave him?
I know, and look...
From an individual, do you say, well, am I going to be third here? Am I going to be...
It's up to the club to create a role, or say we're going to go with two assistant managers. You can't have somebody that's won last five games.
Yep.
He's won the last 5 games. Surely, if you're coming in, you're going, we need to keep him. He knows the players inside out.
Yep.
He knows the expectation. He knows the run-ins of the club. But he's bringing another 2 coaches. Peter's got to be there. He's got to be there next season. something clearly wrong.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. 4 games, and obviously that game against Celtic in the Cup. But even the Celtic game in the Cup, they were impressive.
Right. He's got it. It'll be interesting to see if he's there next year. If he's not there next year, will he go and try to be a number 1 somewhere else? Because I think he's got the tools to do it.
Yeah, I think he will be there. I think he'll stay and see what it offers up there. Only time will tell. So Ross County have to win. Simple as that, because it's Motherwell against St Johnstone. And in a strange sort of way, I agree with Lee. I think it could be a situation where both of them lose, because no disrespect to the players, I don't know. I don't see a style. I don't see a player that's capable of doing anything. The only player that I actually look at in the St Johnstone side and I think, yep, he's got something, is the boy Carey, Graham Carey. Because
I like Nicky Clark as well, but he's not a run. He's not a complete run of games.
I like Nicky Clark, but unfortunately, when you look at St Johnstone and you say to yourself, okay, over the last few games, you're looking at the way they're playing.
I agree.
Can't score a goal. Their play has been absolute. They haven't won a game in 5.
Well, in the last 5 games, and probably the rest of the games this season, the star man is their goalkeeper.
Mitov is good.
He's a star. If it hasn't been for him, they would be losing.
I think it's something like 2 wins and 13.
They're going to Motherwell, a team with goals in them, goals for midfield, goals up front, bare. Last home game at Motherwell, you know what Fir Park's like.
Yeah.
It can be a difficult place to go. The fans will be there to support. I just don't see St Johnstone getting close to getting a point.
With the Perth fans who turned out, and there was a lot of them there to cheer them on. They were played off the park by Ross County. Ross County should have been out of sight. In the 90th minute, Ruffy, Graham Carey hit a hopefull. It was just a hopeful, let's launch it into the box and see if somebody's there. And Sidibe heads the ball into the back of it. And honestly, I'm in the press box looking and I'm thinking, I do not believe it. They are rank rotten. And every time I've seen them, they've been rank rotten. I mean, they mugged Hibs at Easter Road. I mean, unbelievable. They had 2 chances and scored 2.
This is St Johnstone here. You're now banned from next year.
No, listen, the board must see it. The board must look and think.
Is Craig Levein going to be there next year?
I mean, is he going to be there to... Listen.
It's new owners, isn't it?
At the end of the day...
Have they got new owners?
I reckon
there'll be a change. There's a change of strategy. And they're going to come in and they're going to have to, probably sit down with Craig and say, listen, by the way, do you not think Craig Levein is sitting there going, I mean, I can't get in and out of him. He's not good enough. He's past his best. There was no cohesion about that team. I mean, Craig, after the game, obviously, said, listen, if we have to go to the playoffs, so be it.
It might be that we're in the playoffs, and I'd rather go into the playoffs in a position where we're actually in a vein of form, rather than it just being about disappointment. So after the reality is, now it's out of our hands. So we'll have to acknowledge that. But for my message for the players is, let's just play as well as we possibly can.
Yeah, listen, on this programme, Ruffy, more often than not, I've said since the day and hour we started it 11 years ago, you have an opinion. You'll get an opinion. I'm just telling you, I always say to most of their production team and our journalists who go to the games, don't let your eyes deceive you. Don't listen to a manager saying blah, 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 blah. Give it your honest assessment of it. Craig's got to try and save them and keep them in the division. I don't think they're good enough for that. They've had 2 wins and 13.
Yeah, well, I've said that, not half the season, that the playoff guys in the Championship would be more than capable.
Yeah. If they go in against Wraith Rovers, and I think Wraith Rovers, sorry Ruffy, I think Wraith Rovers are going to win. Wraith Rovers will play them off the park.
Well, let's see. It's obviously the game's tonight. That Thistle haven't beaten Wraith Rovers this year.
Yeah.
Wraith Rovers were 12 points ahead of Thistle in the league, so you would think they are the form side, but Thistle have got players capable enough. But I think Thistle would rather have gone there winning 2-1 than being down 2-1, because it's the old saying, whoever scores first. And if Thistle were to get a goal, it's all on. But if Wraith Rovers get a goal, you would think it'd be too much.
I thought they looked good against the Jags, Wraith Rovers, and I still think I agree with
They're a
Ruffy.
good team, a good manager.
Yeah.
They really are. And they just blew up at the end where against Dundee United, to stronger squad, more money, bigger club, whatever expectation levels are there. But I'm listening to Craig Levein there, and he's saying getting into the playoffs with form. Don't really see that. He's saying that it's out of their hands.
Yeah.
If they beat Motherwell.
Yeah, but again, destiny lies with Ross County.
Yeah, but all they can do is beat Motherwell. If Ross County don't win, then they're all right.
Yeah. You know, he's got to... By the way, the other thing is with Craig Levein can't come out and slaughter his players. And by the way...
Exactly, that's where the run of form
This
is coming for you.
Absolutely.
I think he's trying to get the mentality in the dressing room going, oh.
I mean, I thought he would have enough experience, Craig, to try and get a trick out of them. He hasn't been able to do that.
No.
He's not got a good enough squad. There are a lot of players who will leave because they're not good enough. He's got to try something, and he's not going to slaughter them. And by the way, he's a manager more than capable of slaughtering them, because in a press conference, he is absolutely...
Capable of slaughtering you, Peter.
He's one of... Oh, listen, he slaughtered me before I sat down. But he's one of my favourite managers in a press conference, you know.
I just think he's mellowed a wee bit. I mean, I know you're seeing him.
Since this job?
I think in the interviews...
From this job, I agree.
In the interviews that I've
He's
seen,
done it
I've
totally.
not seen a volatile manager who's upset about what's happening. I think he's just been there and done it, and he's just...
Unless he is upset, he's just
Well,
betraying...
maybe behind the scenes.
Just betraying that calmness.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Because at this point, you can't slaughter the players. You've got to get a trick out of them. Anyway, those games on this Saturday, Celtic St Mirren, Hearts against Rangers, and we've talked about Ross County and Aberdeen, and how do you think that's going to go, Ross County?
A draw, one each.
One each?
Aberdeen 2-1.
Okay, I'm going to go Ross County just for Jan the Staggy. County to win 1-0, and I think Motherwell. He's had a good season, by the way. He's done well. He's been battered a few times, tipped for the sack.
I think the board deserve a lot of credit for that.
Yeah,
and no
sticking by him.
Aye, and that's few and far between now, especially in the hostile world of football. I think the board deserve enormous credit for sticking by him.
3-1 Motherwell.
2-1 Motherwell.
2-0 Motherwell.
Yeah, so St Johnstone in the playoffs.
Yep.
Okay.
Against this one.
Yeah, we shall see it, Ruffy, if that is the case against Thistle. Anyway, there's the game there. Livingston against Hibs. Got to talk about it. Hibs will finish 7th if they beat Livingston. And obviously, you're looking at Motherwell and they've got to lose to St Johnstone. But there seems to be a fair bit of consternation. Obviously, two clubs with big calls in the summer. David Martindale's looking, and I think there are stories that are going to come out shortly on Livingston. This whole battle for control is going to blow up shortly. Whether David Martindale's there as manager, only time will tell. And then, of course, at Hibs, Malky McKay comes in as director of football, sporting director. David Gray, who wants the Hibs job, can understand why quite a few groups are unhappy that Malky McKay is there.
Hibernian will close out their Premiership campaign this weekend with a trip to the Tony Macaroni Arena to take on Livingston. For David Gray, the interim boss, it's his last chance to impress the hierarchy if he has any chance of being named permanent Hibs boss. Speaking here this afternoon, he believes he has more than enough to be given the role on a permanent basis.
Yeah, I think I'll always back myself, given the opportunity. I think I've been in this position now 4 times. It's been uncomfortable for a number of reasons, because, as I say, first and foremost, there's people losing their jobs when you work with them all the time. But in terms of backing my ability to be able to do the job, 100% believe I can do it. I think I've demonstrated that now on a few occasions. But always, first and foremost, I'm doing whatever at this moment in time what the club have asked me to do.
One of the members of the hierarchy that will be making the decisions is Malky McKay. His appointment as sporting director has come with huge backlash from the Hibernian supporters, and David Gray says those fans are entitled to their opinion, but he disagrees.
This is the thing nowadays, everybody's got their opinion on everything, and rightly so, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I think if you're asking me my opinion, I think on a footballing terms it's a fantastic appointment for what he can bring. He brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in Scotland and England, where he's managed. He's been successful with Ross County, getting them into top 6 and things like that, and also then you added to that the experience he's got when he was working with the Scottish FA performance director. So I think in terms of what he brings and what he'll add moving forward to the football department is really positive.
Livingston versus Hibernian on the final day of the season. It kicks off Sunday at 3 p.m.
Yeah, some ultras, Hibs pride, women's supporters not happy about it. Malky just wants to be judged on the job that he's going to do. I wonder at what point, this constant barrage of criticism, at what point do people look and say there is forgiveness?
Yeah, I think it depends on what opinion you go with. As everybody deserves a second chance. I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that once he was punished, he did everything in his power to show remorse, to go through the proper procedures to get yourself back on the right track. I think he'd done all that, and I think he's proved, as the manager Gray's just said there, that anywhere he's went, he's behaved himself impeccably. I think he's been an asset to the game up here. So I think sometimes some people need to let it go, and life's so short, to be hanging on, continually, having a go at somebody when they have shown the remorse and went through the proper procedures to get themselves back on track.
Okay, another thing that's caused a little bit of a furore at Hibs, certainly with Lewis Stevenson. Lewis Stevenson himself and Paul Hanlon, it was a nice farewell for them at Easter Road. They're going to be let go in the summer. Lewis Stevenson reckons Hanlon still has something to offer at Easter Road.
And for me, no complaints. I totally understand the club's position that I'm 36, they need to move on at some point, but I can probably say this now but I think with Paul it's a big mistake. I think it showed the last few games that how good he can be. A left centre half is very hard to come by, and he's still playing as well as I think he's ever done. I think anyone watching that game, any potential suitors, then he's going to be a good mind for getting a few offers next season.
He's 34 years of age. I actually think, and I can understand why, Lewis has got no gripes. He's earned his stripes. But I can understand, why Hibs are saying, listen, we need a shift here.
They need different people in the changing room, obviously. Paul Hanlon's had a fantastic career, been a great servant for Hibs, but I think in the last 2-3 years, Hibs have really, really underperformed. And that's where, if you're in the dressing room and you are an experienced player, you've got to take all the flack, because you should be getting a hold of the dressing room, portraying onto the younger players just everything that I was talking about earlier, the way to live, the way to act if you're a Hibs player. I'm not saying he's not done that, but he's just got to be in the way of change.
Yeah, I think they have underperformed. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And at times, okay, injuries, okay, African Cup of Nations, sometimes the Australian squads, the demands on them as well. These are all things which lots of managers have to put up with. But in big games, they just haven't been able to get over the line. So change is needed, Ruffy. Black Knights will make a significant difference.
Yeah, I think there'll be a big Bournemouth influence in the team next year. I'm not talking about masses of players coming in, but I do think there'll be certain players being offered to Hibs, and I've got possibly better quality than what's at Hibs. We'll have to wait and see who the new manager that comes in, where he's going to identify, players from as well. But certainly there needs to be somebody coming in that changes not being in the top six, because Hibs need to be in that top six.
I wish they wouldn't have called themselves the Black Knights, Ruffy, because I just can't help. Every time I have to say it, I just constantly think of Monty Python. and when he gets his first arm cut off, and then
is that We Are the Knights Who Say Knee?
Yeah,
that's them, isn't it? The big ones in the forest.
He's sitting there trying to stick a heat in them, and he's lost.
Come back, you'll bite your legs off.
Honestly. Anyway, I digress. Livingston. I think David Martindale says he will likely leave the club if ongoing legal action with regards to the ownership doesn't go the way he thinks it should go. So problems in the background.
He's been talking about it all year, just wee sound bites of what's happening with the budget and what's happening behind the scenes. So he is privy to everything that's happening there, because he's been brought into these board meetings and all the decisions that have been happening. So you can tell for the last 2 or 3 months he's been disillusioned by not only what's on the park, but what's off the park. So I hope everything goes well for him, because he has been a big asset to the club.
Yeah, and I think he's got something to offer Scottish football. In the end, though, Ruffy, he didn't quite get his way on one of the players, and you and I just ended up going to our bank accounts, and we've bought Joel Nibley. Because he tried to punt him for long and weary. Listen, the latest predictor scores down to the wire, Ruffy. Let's have a wee look and see how it's all looking. And it's...
Pete, I've caught you.
Yeah, you are there. I'm happy with that. Listen, will we join hands and just cross the line together?
Yeah.
We'll still get a medal.
Yeah, I think so.
Ruffy, you've been absolutely magnificent this season. You've had a few absolute crackers. And Pat Lowe looks as if he could be the man we're taking out now for a dinner with the partner and all the team.
That'd be great. He's bound to be
Pat
good.
can't get caught now, really, can he?
No, there's no danger. He's going to win it. He's going to win it. Listen, we're going to do that again next year. Everybody's actually, appealed to us to get it up and running, and I managed to get it up and running, Ruffy.
Yeah, it was great, and
it's been good.
I mean, off the top of my head, there's a lot of people doing it. That's why being 13th just makes you feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And as my mum used to say, self-praise is no praise. But let's crack on. End of season awards. Sunday's a great night, Lee. I'm gutted you're missing it, because usually what happens is it's the only night of the year where I have a few scoops and tell people what I think of them. God, I wish
I'm
you were
glad
there.
I'm there.
I wish you were there, Lee.
If we were sitting there and it's 11 o'clock and he goes, "Where's that Celtic table?"
I won't be doing that, Ruffy, I can tell you. But it's a right good night. I mean, I enjoy the Scottish football writers' night. It's a good night. Lauren Shankland.
Why did they announce the winners for the night?
It's
PR?
I think it's just a bit of PR, the build up to it all as well. Shankland, worthy of it.
Fantastic. That goal the other night just summed it up for me. Fantastic.
Yeah. 31 goals from 50 games in all competitions. Fantastic, isn't it? Yeah.
Tremendous.
Just as a little footnote, before we obviously finish the programme, and I think I'll obviously do a greater detail and greater tribute to one journalist who sadly passed away, and I think he just caught every one of us. It was a shock yesterday to realise that Ewan Graham had passed away. A journalist of top quality, great repute. A lot of us liked Ewan. He was only a couple of weeks ago on the Journo's show on PLZ Soccer, and to lose his life at such a young age. I think around about 63, Ruffy, is no age at all. He was a good operator and a great lad. And our condolences and prayers and thoughts go out to his family and friends.
Yeah, I have to say, any footballer that's been interviewed by him or the contact with him, old school media, you felt very, very comfortable talking to him and discussing things with him.
Loved a stat.
Yes, and any time I met him, I never met him a lot of times, but any time I did meet him, he was just old school and comfortable to talk to and ask questions about, and you knew that was it. Yeah,
absolutely. He will be greatly missed by so many people, and I think we'll pay a fitting tribute to you on Wednesday's Journo's programme, but a sad loss. Just a couple of things before we finish. Lee, Derek McInnes won the manager of the Manager of the Year award for the sponsors Glens.
Yeah, deserved for me as well, guaranteeing European football. For where they were 2-3 years ago, bringing them up for the Championship, consolidating and then kicking on to guarantee that football is a tremendous achievement.
Willie Collum, he will take up the head of refereeing in Scotland. So not only did he get pelters when he was a referee, now he's at the head of it. We'll be slaughtering him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got a big job in his hands. I saw an interview the other day. He's got a lot of views on VAR. I'm hoping he can implement, because I was saying on the show, although we're not happy with VAR, I don't think the referees are happy with it either. So if the referees are going to Willie Collum, who's experienced all the criticism with VAR, it might help us in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. The EPL are going to vote on it. It looks as if they will retain it, despite the sensational headline that they might want to get rid of VAR next season. I don't think that will happen.
I can't see them getting rid of it. There has been some errors down in England, but Nah, they're not getting rid of that.
No. And by the way, from everybody on PLZ Soccer, we wish Willie the very best in his job. He's got a huge amount of experience. Let's hope there's more communication, more transparency, and of course, maybe with Willie's ideas, a change in the strategy of how we use VAR. Who knows? We'll keep our fingers crossed on that with Willie. Last point on this title. This weekend, Man City sitting at the top, 2 points ahead of Arsenal. They've got West Ham at home. Arsenal face Everton at home. Everybody will be thinking, oh, is this going to be a twist in the tail? And I'm saying to you now, Ruffy, not a catch chance in hell.
No, I think as soon as that team line comes in and Haaland's on it and De Bruyne's on it, I think you can just forget it.
Absolutely. I think, I think they're bringing back Bell, Lee and Summerby as well. They're all playing. Can't see a slip up, can you?
Nah, I can't see a slip up. They're too good. And then I think they'll win the cup the following week as well.
Brilliant. Okay, nice wee double whammy from Lee there, straight in. The good news is, if you love your football, well, we do as well, and we are all going to the Euros. Yeah, I'll be there with Kerry and the team, and Lee and Tam. Not Ruffy, because as per the terms of his contract, 6 holidays a year, and if big gigs come in, then we get a It's as simple as that. I don't want to lie about it. If there's a better offer, you lot can go and take a flying, and that's exactly what's happened. So we'll be on the plane. I'm looking forward to it.
That'll be good. It'll be good. Really looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Mixing in with the fans and seeing everybody.
Boys are probably an experience flying in a cargo.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a great time. Download the app. You'll get all the breaking news at your fingertips. Hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel and you'll be able to see us live across Germany following Scotland, where we'll all be there with our Scotland tops on and we'll all be saying we. I love that feeling.
Yes,
to you.
we. I'm going to take one of my old Scotland tops and I'm going to wear that. Do you want one?
I'll
bring you one.
I'll wear it as an armband. By the way, I'm away for a 9-mile jog to see if I can get into that top. On that note, thanks to everyone for watching and listening today.